Welcome to Protect, Suicide Prevention Training Podcast for Healthcare Professionals. I'm Manan, Consultant Psychiatrist, Founder, and Head of Faculty at Progress Guide. Good day, listeners. Welcome to the Protect Podcast. This podcast is going to air on the eve of World Suicide Prevention Day. And I'm going to attempt to do something outrageous. I have got two humorists with me on this podcast today. And those of you who know me, you know that I'm anything but humorous. I am serious and quite intense. So I'm going to live to regret this most probably. So let me introduce you to Mallori, DeSalle, and Lodge McCammon. So Mallori has permitted me to do this. She has got an MA, LMHC, NCC, CMHC, MATS, CPS, CHP. There are no more alphabets left that we could add to this. Lodge, on the other hand, is a PhD. He's a poor cousin, Lodge McCammon, as we said, I've been telling him, we've been watching Outlander. So from Clan McCammon of the Highlands, he's a poor cousin. He hasn't got that many alphabets behind his name, just a PhD. So welcome Mallori, and welcome Lodge. So Mallori is a therapist, trainer, humorist from Indiana University. Mallori DeSalle, she's a licensed mental health counselor, an internationally certified prevention specialist, motivational interviewing trainer, and a certified humor professional. As a speaker and trainer, she has sparked curiosity in both the young and young at heart. Her passion for creating a lasting impact led her to the public health field, and for the past 14 years, she has worked at Prevention Insights, a center within the School of Public Health at Indiana University, Bloomington. Mallori works with people all over the world. She served on the board of directors for the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor, and in 2021 became a TEDx speaker. Wow. So her credentials don't impress her family, she says, but occasionally her corny jokes do make them laugh. So welcome, Mallori.
Thank you.
Yes, we do need a drum roll for you, Lodge. So Lodge is also a humorist, musician, educator, speaker. I can see on the Zoom call guitars and big speakers behind him. So really nice paraphernalia to go with your musical background, Lodge. So Dr. Lodge McCammon is a therapeutic humorist as well, instructional designer, author, musician, and international education consultant who provides professional services, including keynote speeches, workshops, curriculum development, and a variety of training programs. He works with school districts, universities, nonprofits, and businesses, as for example, Palm Beach Schools, University of the West Indies, Discovery Education, Microsoft, Amazon, some big names in there. Most recently, Lodge facilitated a month of therapeutic humor for the Nourished Teachers community, which is a Facebook-funded initiative focused on helping educators cope with work stress and avoid burnout. He uses a program that he designed called Laugh It Off to help his clients transform their daily frustrations into humor. So welcome, Mallori and Lodge. What a privilege it is to have you guys over here. But tell me, am I going to live to regret this, having humorists in a show before World Suicide Prevention Day as the showcase event on the podcast? My heart's beating fast and I'm feeling quite anxious because, as I said, I am not humorous at all. I try and I fail miserably, but I'll keep trying. I'm happy to play along. So welcome.
Thank you, Manan. You're hilarious. So
yes.
you've already hit the mark. You're not going to regret it. And thank you for having us. We are thrilled to be here. And thank you all for joining us out there in podcast land. Let's begin with a paradox. Excuse me. Whoa, that got me. Which is a situation that has contradictory features. So here's the paradox we're going to explore today. Humor and laughter are desperately needed today. Humor and laughter are very risky today.
Yes. Therapeutic humor, though, isn't about us delivering a joke and telling you what is funny. If we did that, we would alienate a large percentage of our audience, especially these days. So it's more about us inviting you, Manan, to find your own funny. And evoking humor can more safely help everyone access joy in life.
Yeah, so over the next handful of minutes, we're going to demonstrate that by inviting Manon to be our client, so we can explore some therapeutic humor exercises together.
We are going to engage in a series of 3 different therapeutic humor exercises. First, we're going to ask for permission. So Manon, are you ready?
Oh my God, as I said, oh yes, absolutely, but my heart's racing at the moment.
I thought he was going to do like a yes and.
Yeah,
Are
yes
you ready?
and.
Yes and.
Improv.
Nice. So excellent. One other thing real quick before we begin. It is possible that you will listen to this podcast and be like, I don't think what they're saying is funny at all. And you know what? That's okay. This is not a stand-up comedy performance. This is an intentional conversation between the 3 of us. Indeed.
And if you do think what we come up with here is funny, that's great. And if not, it's fine. In either case, we want to invite you to try these exercises that we present today and see if you can make yourself laugh. That's really what it's all about.
And you know, guys,
so let's jump.
Sorry, I was going to say that I've seen other bits that you have done, other shows that you have done with Stan, and not the whole of it. I've seen certain bits, and I thought, actually, on a day as serious as World Suicide Prevention Day, perhaps this is what we need. A lot of our staff who are working in mental health really struggle with burnout, and for many of them, their lives have been touched by suicide, either personally or professionally. And to maintain energy in the long run, because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You have to have something in the cup to pour from it. And when you're working in mental health, one of the things you're doing is that you are holding hope for another person when hope is dwindling, the light is fading, or the flame is flickering, whatever metaphor works for you. And if you cannot connect with what sparks your joy or what lights your flame, what lights your fire, it's very difficult to support others. So I thought I'll go completely rogue, instead of doing something serious for World Suicide Prevention Day. We'll go rogue, off the beaten track, and have you guys in and give something back to our listeners who could perhaps do with a bit of laughter. Most rarely at my expense, I get the sense, but yes, no. Why not? Why not?
No, that's wonderful. And I think that, and Manon, you can be the judge of this, and listeners out there, you can also be the judge of this, of course. But speaking personally, I'm sure Mallori has a similar response to this, or a similar perspective, that for me, humor has been probably the best way for me to fill that cup. Exactly what you're talking about. Humor is such a powerful concept. Creating humor, enjoying humor, laughter, community building, connection. These are the things, at least for me, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, these are the things that do fill my cup and keep me from burnout and other, difficulties.
I agree, Lodge. And before we go into this first exercise, what I want to just add is we are about to walk you through the how you use humor. And each of these exercises are going to give you tools that you can repeat anytime you feel that burnout.
Yeah. And like at work, it's a high stress environment. And with COVID and all in the healthcare sector, we've been hammered over the last 2 to 3 years. One of the ways in which we have been able to get through that in that high stress environment is having a team around me who can laugh at pretty much everything. And it's a real gift. It's a real blessing. The team I have, we managed to laugh even in the most stressful thing. We managed to find something funny, and that's been our saving grace. So that's why I thought, right, let's get Mallori and Lodge over for this special podcast episode. And let's see how it goes. Worst case scenario, I will delete it all. Hope it won't come. Fingers crossed.
I say we jump in and start laughing. Let's get some punchlines going. Let's do this. I'm ready.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And Manon, yeah, we're going to jump into the exercise here in just a moment. And it's wonderful that you have a team that laughs together and individuals who are willing to, put themselves out there a little bit and willing to engage in humor. A lot of people don't have that. And because they don't have the community that's built around it, or they don't find it accessible, or what I hear quite a bit is, I'm not funny. Right? I don't know how to make people laugh. I don't have the tools. I don't have the background. I don't understand how it works. So that's really what drives us, is creating incredibly accessible, low barrier strategies that you can practice daily to add that humor. Anybody can do these, right? So this is not about like becoming a professional stand-up comedian. That's really, really difficult. It takes decades. This is about what can you do right now?
Yep.
With your team, with yourself. So is it okay if we jump in?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Love it.
Okay. So exercise 1, and these exercises build on each other. So exercise 1, we call pile-o punchlines. So punchlines are absurd statements that can add humor and diffuse tension when placed at the end of any sentence. Let's think of a simple sentence like, I've had a really difficult day. So here are some punchlines that you can throw at the end of that to diffuse the tension. So I might say, I've had a really difficult day. Now that's a spicy meatball. Wait, let me try that again. Sorry.
Try it again.
Now that's a spicy meatball. No, okay, that wasn't better. No.
I like that better. Here's one I like. I've had a really difficult day. Don't tell Steve.
Who's Steve? It doesn't matter. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
So I've had a really difficult day. That's why I don't mess with leeches. I don't know why that makes me laugh.
I don't know. This one makes me laugh.
Maybe somewhere in your childhood, and this is the psychotherapist kicking in, you messed with leeches and you had a really bad day. Okay, so maybe there may be a backstory to this, but let's not get into that.
I love it. How about this one? I've had a really terrible day. Oh, I guess I won't get my deposit back.
Deposit back for life. So what I really like about these like silly statements that we can add at the end of difficult statements is that it allows, if we're performing these, like sharing them in this community, it allows us, each one of us, to kind of make our own interpretation of what that means. So when Mallori said, I guess I won't get my deposit back, I immediately like, deposit back for life? How can you get a deposit? You don't give a deposit in life, so you can't get that. To me, that's funny. So it's like a little mental game, but somebody else might think of it different, like have a different interpretation of that. And that's what makes it kind of fun, is like you just choose your own meaning behind the punchline. And that's kind of what makes it interesting in a community. So now, if you're listening to this right now, in podcast world, feel free to give this a try. Start making your own list. What are some things that you think are sort of goofy statements that you might tack on at the end of a difficult statement?
And Manon, we want you to do that with us here. So now that you've heard some examples, share some of your punchlines, some things that you think if you add at the end of a statement, it could make it funny.
There are, of course, Manon, there are no wrong answers. So the more absurd, silly, ridiculous, actually, the better. Comedy comes, humor comes, laughter comes largely from exploring absurdity, the incongruence in life. So the more ridiculous, the better. Also, Manon, please feel free to perform each punchline. See if you can say it in a way that adds even more humor. I don't know, just play with that. But what do you got? Tell us some of your punchlines.
Okay. So you guys can see this kangaroo on my t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I can say, oh, and this kangaroo came to life.
It came to this. Okay.
And the reason I find it funny is because, I don't know, have you ever seen kangaroos box? Like they stand up like pugilists and they actually kind of box. So, and then one of them hops away. So it's a very, very Australian thing. And you often see kangaroos in Ibermaston, which is out there outside Brisbane, where there's lots of cricket grounds, and you see all these kangaroos milling about, and then two of them will start boxing, as if suddenly they come to life. It's incredibly funny. Anyway, those who don't know, you're thinking, what
Love
are
it.
you talking about? But it's actually quite a funny sight. If you haven't seen kangaroos box, Google it and find out. What else? And my wife took the plane back to India. Again, it's funny in my head, but most of the others won't get it. She was away for almost a month, and actually, yes, we had our difficulties without all the cooking that she does. But me and my kids also had a lot of fun, actually, just by herself. I don't think I'm going to get any more food now if she hears this podcast. Actually, the other day, a patient told me, "Doctor, you really need to get a life." That was quite funny. And in my head, I had this message going through, which was like in my thought bubble, "Oh, how the roles are flipped." I am the psychiatrist here, for God's sake, and there's a patient advising me. And it was actually quite genuine what the patient was saying, because I think the patient was my last patient. It was almost 8 p.m. And as he was leaving, I said, "Yeah, I am here for you, mate." Doctor, you need to get a life. You started very early, finishing at 8 p.m. The other one, which is quite funny, is I've got a team of primarily women, very high achieving, high powered women. And often they would come up to me. I've got a couple of men as well, Theo and Anoop, but often they are not there. And then I'm surrounded by all this women, and they would come up to me and say, "Are you feeling lonely? Way too much estrogen for you to handle. Way too much estrogen in this room, It's all about girl power. It's more like estrogen power drowning my whatever testosterone I have left in the mid-40s, So yeah, so that's quite funny. I'm a spoiled Indian married man. I guess that one works for me,
I'm a spoiled Indian married man.
Yeah. Oh, it's a special privilege, and even if you're not married, just by being an Indian man, your mother spoils you, because you get looked after by the ladies in your life, whether that be the mother or whether that be your wife or girlfriend. Oh, by the way, you need an Indian wife or an Indian girlfriend as well. I don't think the other way it works, because to be looked after, by that I mean. Oh my God, the feminists are going to get my head. You realize that I'm going down this rabbit hole. Well, where are you leading me, Lodge?
Oh, no. I mean, so the punchline about didn't the women come up with the punchline? They said, there's too much estrogen
in this room for you to handle.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
Are you okay? Too much estrogen for you to handle.
So they're owning the punchline. I love that.
Yeah, they're owning it. Yeah, that's fine.
So there was a baby shower going on, and so one of my admin, Courtney, it was her baby shower, and the room was literally full of women, and I was the only one. And then Anoop Matthew Joseph was one of my clinical directors. He turned, and I just had a sigh of relief, because they were playing all these baby shower games, getting you to smell nappies and things like that, which had kind of brown colored stuff inside the nappy, and you had to guess what is it? Is this Marmite or thank God. And I felt rescued when Anoop came in, and then the two of us were standing in one corner, and then Sharon comes up and said, "Are you guys okay? Too much estrogen for you to handle?"
That's exactly right. What you just did here by sort of brainstorming some of these punchlines, and by adding that one that worked in that group, it helps establish a social contract in that group, that the next time you're in that group of women, you all are going to laugh when they use that punchline. And any group can come together and establish a group of punchlines like we have done here with Manon. And we all sort of agree that as Manon or Lodge or I use any of these punchlines at any time, it's an invitation for us all to laugh along because it becomes this low barrier, safe inside joke.
Right. So every time you say estrogen, it's going to make me laugh. Like you can say it right now. I will always laugh. I don't know why, but that's the social contract. That's what we have now. That's going to add more laughter to all of our lives. So give it a try. I'll show you.
Before we do that, I just remember. No,
that's a good joke. That's a good broken expectation right there.
Funny things going through my head. So my community director, Annie Stijinga, she is so funny. And so Annie and Sharon, so I've got two males in my group now, Theo and Anu. But before that, I was just surrounded just by women. And the kind of jokes they would crack, and they were all about periods and menstruation. And I would sit there, even as a brown man, I would go red in my face. And then they would crack their jokes. And then they would look at me, are you okay? Too much estrogen in this room for you to handle.
That's where I might come in and ask you, are you now a spoiled Indian man?
Oh my God. And they keep having it, because I get lunch pre-made every day. And then yesterday, I was taking my lunch out, and Rosie, who is my nursing director from the inpatient, so she was making her own wrap, and she was going to make it. And I was taking out my lunch from the refrigerator, and she said, "Oh, what have you got?" "Oh, sorry, I forgot. You don't know, because it's all pre-made for you, spoiled Indian married man."
Exactly. And I think we stumbled on another really good one. So I'm just thinking of one of these non sequitur punchlines, right? So here's one I heard you say: even as a brown man, I would go red in my face. You can put that at the end of anything. That would I will fall over laughing if you add that as a punchline to literally any other thing you say. So you can write that down if you want. That was those are your words. I want credit for hearing it.
Skin color is such a serious thing, but being able to laugh about skin color, like all the colored people, particularly Indians, we are browns. So all that we want to do is we want to become fair. We want to become white. And white people are paying so much money to sunbathe and become brown. I just don't get it. Why can't people just be happy with the color that they have got?
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm getting into dangerous territory here, right? We should cut that out.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can laugh at that one. I don't know about that.
I can't, because I'm proud.
Yeah, you can, and we can smile along.
I can brown and go red in the face, and you guys have to laugh because that's our social contract, right? That's the deal, isn't it?
That's right. Absolutely.
I was just trying it out to see, do you guys laugh at that? Laugh at that race joke. Oh my God. So
right. So what we've done and continue to do is leverage that social contract and really race forward with it. And as we have more and more conversations, more of these low barrier inside jokes will keep popping up, and more opportunities for us to laugh and to come together and agree that we'll laugh on certain things. It's beautiful. So according to research, this kind of humor is a healthy strategy that can be practiced daily to reduce the negative impacts of frustration and stress. Also, humor and laughter are associated with improved social bonding. I mean, Mallori, Manan, and I are kind of having the time of our lives over here, as well as increased psychological safety.
Absolutely. For example, I might say something like we described earlier. I've had a really difficult day, and then the kangaroo on Manan's t-shirt came to life.
Well, it triggered the kangaroo's fight or flight response. So, it came to life because you've had a difficult day. So that's right on, Mallori. Yeah.
But think about what just happened, right? I mean, let's think about what just happened. So saying I've had a really difficult day builds a lot of tension, right? You're just like, oh, yeah, I've had this really difficult day. But what just happened is Mallori immediately released the tension of that frustration, which allowed all of us to move toward acceptance. And actually, this was a little bit more advanced than it normally is, because now we've added physicality to the joke, and now Manan's t-shirt came to life, and now we're all doing this, and that's even funnier. This is wonderful. So it creates this wonderful light situation and community that we have here. And this immediately releases the tension and allows us to move toward acceptance of a difficult day. See, we have created that social contract between the three of us, but it can work with any group. And listeners out there, think of giving this a try.
And I'm curious, Manon, after having done this exercise and thinking about your work in suicide prevention, how does this kind of process of thinking about punchlines that could be added after, any random statement, how does this sort of make you feel? And how does this relate to the work that you do?
Well, to start with, my heart rate has slowed down a little bit, which is a good sign, right? So I was actually feeling quite anxious at the beginning of the podcast, thinking, where is this going to go? And just the very fact that I've been silly with you all and laughing has somehow released that tension. So, so just from an experiential point of view, I can say that I'm feeling more relaxed just by the way of laughing. And as I said, I have a group of really kind of great guys and gals, mainly gals, as I said, that I work with. And I can see this taking it into that space. And kind of we already have certain things we tend to laugh about. So it may be someone's, like, for example, we tend to laugh about the mess Sharon tends to make, right? So that's kind of already a joke going there. A table is perhaps only messier than mine. There's Rosie is an absolute control freak and likes things to be exact and perfect, and likes numbers and spreadsheets. So we all tend to laugh about here goes Rosie again, whenever if things are not absolutely precise. So that's almost like I'm just trying to make parallels at work. And they haven't been arrived at in the same way over here, like this is a social contract. But over time, that has emerged at work. Some things that we laugh at, and it's okay to laugh, like yesterday again, was it yesterday or day before yesterday, we were talking about seclusion and restraint prevention. And I was talking about, we were in a group of 5 of us discussing in 5 years' time, we will have a book on all the work that we are doing in this space. And I was talking about, yes, it would be chaotic, it would be organic, it would be iterative, but what we will have is going to be really beautiful. And I could see Rosie sit there freezing up, thinking about the chaos, and I said, Rosie, relax, it's going to be beautiful. This book will be wonderful that will come out at the end of the journey. And we all had a laugh. And Rosie said, yes, my heart's beating fast. I'm this, to be in control and to have things lined up and for it to follow a project plan. So, and she said, yes, Manan, I have learned that working with you, that it's going to be chaotic. So yeah, there are certain social contracts that you enter into over time because you get to know your team.
And can I ask you a follow-up question? Because what I'm hearing you say is everyone or many people notice something in your office, and it's sort of a quirk or something that people notice that might be different. And sort of it becomes a running joke, really sort of central to someone. And I want to highlight that is slightly different from what we've done here, where we take sort of a benign or non sequitur, unrelated thing, which creates a slightly different social contract. And I'm curious if you found anything in your office that happened that you all share, that it's not about one person or about a thing. Like maybe the power went out and you were all together and you go, whoop, then the lights went out. And that became something everyone feels is a safe joke, or everyone feels like, oh, I connect and relate to that. Because that's really what we're doing with this pile of punchline. We're coming up with something that is non-threatening to any one person because we want every person to feel connected to the joke. So are there any of those in your workplace that you can think of? Or if not, I would love to have you try it with them and say, What can be our shared punchline?
Yes, I'm thinking about it. Saying that, because of how close and tight-knit we are as a team,
Mhm.
I think we can laugh about each other and laugh together, because we have that psychologically safe space. But I can
Mm.
see what you mean, that if it's not that tight-knit a team, then having a social contract like that with a shared punchline can actually make it a way of people coming together using
Mhm.
laughter. And over a period of time, you can build that team spirit. I can just see that happening. Um,
Mhm.
like one of the things, I just remembered another incident where, so my desk is incredibly messy as well. And one of my, the chief training supervisor, Dr. Kate Wick, um, like she was, I had her doing something on my computer, and she looked at my desk and she just wanted to put her bag down, and there was no space because there was just paper everywhere. And she looked at me and, Anna, what is this? Like, like, and I kind of said, you allow a woman 1 inch and they start bossing you about, right? So I said something to that effect, and she burst out laughing. So for me and Kate, that's perhaps, we can connect over something like that. But I can see things like that happening, with 4 or 5 of us, where you have something which becomes a shared event. And given how many women I have in my team, I can see that whole estrogen thing. I think the estrogen thing is a pretty shared one, because they know that we tend to,
Yeah.
we tend
It
to
seems
kind
like as long as you feel comfortable with
of,
it, Manon, that if you feel comfortable with the estrogen, then that is one of the shared examples that maybe they came up with sort of about you and you're okay with it. And that's really what I want to highlight. If it does become about someone else, we want to make sure that they are included in the circle, in the community that also laughs, because that's what makes the community that much stronger. And it sounds like you have verified each time that you have a punchline that it's shared within your community, that you all are aligned.
yeah.
Yeah.
And let's this is a good time. This is a good time to revisit the paradox, actually, and to check back in with kind of the spirit of the work. Because the paradox is humor and laughter, wonderfully important, but incredibly tricky.
Yeah.
For example, and I'm not calling anybody out, because every community is slightly different. And you're right, Manon, a lot of these things do evolve naturally over time. In relationships, in communities, it develops naturally over time. But the way that the world is, and maybe it's always been like this, I'm not sure. But if a punchline, for example, that we were promoting here was, allow a woman 1 inch, that's really tricky. That is truly tricky. And I didn't mean to make that a punchline in this podcast. I'm not, but it is tricky. Inside of a community, sure, if everybody agrees, and that's tricky too. Do we know that everybody's fine with it? Have we had that conversation? Because that is a directive punchline. That is a very specific thing to be like, because that means, women take over everything, or whatever that means. It's sort of this derogatory, that would be considered in a way, in the kind of parlance of comedy, that's a kind of punching down.
right.
It's making fun of somebody. It's trying to get humor and laughter by making somebody feel less than. And that's a lot of comedy.
Mhm.
That's sort of most of comedy, honestly. But there's a big distinction between comedy, which employs those tactics, any tactic to make somebody laugh, talking about taboos, talking about inappropriate things, making fun of people, heavily into comedy, which is a big distinction between comedy and therapeutic humor.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
Yes,
that was quite,
absolutely.
that explanation was quite good, because of course, in my head it's funny, and because Kate laughed, I don't know actually what she's really thinking, because we haven't got the power to mind read, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and also there is a power relationship in there, because she reports to me, and the
Mm-hmm.
boss's jokes are always funnier than they actually are. So
Yeah.
So people laugh, but if you kind of just play it out, because you don't know whether they're laughing because of the power dynamic or not. So that's a really good point about punching down. And I'm thinking, so I do watch a fair bit of stand up, and I know what you mean by punching down.
Yeah.
Saying that the ladies in my team, there is no punching them down. I can tell you that. But I do get the point that you are making.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very layered. It's incredibly complicated because human beings, over the course of our lives, many of us learn through behavior, through experiences, that if we laugh, it will diffuse a conflict. And so it's hard to tell, is this person laughing because I just said a funny joke, something that I think is hilarious, or are they laughing to diffuse a conflict? Those are two very different experiences. Because when somebody laughs to diffuse a conflict, many times it is upsetting to them. Something that somebody said is upsetting, but they're like, ha ha ha, maybe if I keep laughing, they'll stop saying mean things or whatever. It's really, really tricky. Back to the paradox is unbelievably tricky. And we're trying to kind of pull these pieces together and create a very safe space for humor to work in any situation.
So when we are thinking about what makes something therapeutic, it is something that is created or evoked from within oneself for oneself, or created and evoked from a community for the community in a benign fashion. So as I think about how this pile of punchline activity might apply to your work in suicide prevention, it might be something that helps reframe the feelings that a young person may be having, because they can say, gosh, today was a really tough day. I was really thinking about suicide a lot today. And then Manon's t-shirt came alive and whoa. And that makes me think, okay, just because I thought about suicide, that's not all I have to feel. I can also think about these ridiculous kangaroos fighting. And that makes me laugh. And that gives my brain a break from thinking, oh no, I thought about suicide again. This is terrible. This is awful. And if you and I are a community, then you and I both get to laugh together. And now instantly, I have two people on my side, you and me.
Yeah. Like this sounds very similar to the problem-free space that solution-focused therapists are often trying to create. Because when someone is in suicidal distress, their mind is so trapped in the difficult situation that they're in. It's kind of almost impossible to think about an alternative reality that might exist, which is outside the current problems that the person is trapped in. But say being able to talk about once a week, this person's playing basketball, right, and shooting hoops. That's a problem-free space for that person. And sometimes when you're talking about those problem-free spaces, we find that solutions come up which are not visible when you are in that completely overwhelmed by that problem. Because it's like a book that's been stuck right into your face, right? And you can't read the book when it's stuck right into your face. But having that humor, that therapeutic humor, I can see how the book will go from the face onto the lap. So not only you can begin to read the book, you can see around the book as well. And sometimes these solutions that we are looking for are actually they're off the beaten track. So they are not in the book. And each person's psychological pain is quite idiosyncratic. It's unique to the person. And just being able to create that space, something that goes from right in your face and a little bit of distance, the ability to stand back, because together you'll manage to have a laugh about something incredibly distressing, might be able to create that space. Having said that, I think I would, to try this at work with a patient, that I must say, it sets my heart racing again. But I guess with any skill, you have to practice it and you have to have the social contract with the person that is our agreed punchline to deal with this. Because we do tell people suicidal urges come as waves, right? They come as waves, they rise up, and then they go down. If we can put some time and space between myself and the urge or the means, just by making the environment safe, or just by distracting ourselves by listening to my favorite music or going for a walk. We talk about internal coping strategies quite a bit, that urge would pass. So in that, I can see that you could build humor into that conversation as an internal coping strategy as well, and creating your own psychologically safe space in therapy, where you can have that social contract with the person with those punchlines as an internal coping strategy, as a way to work therapeutically, because you could just be right and amazing. So I would never have thought about this angle of how you would use therapeutic humor, because it's a paradox, right? Suicide and humor just kind of doesn't seem to go together, an oxymoron.
Right, which makes it very human, because everything's a paradox. Let me run through, if I may. I just want to sort of reflect a little bit what you said. So humor seems to, in our perspective, and you said it very nicely, and I'm just sort of summarizing that humor allows or gives us permission to visit an absurd reality, like vacation in an absurd reality, because that's what we're doing with the kangaroo. That's absurdity. It doesn't really make any sense, but it's allowing us to visit an absurd reality. By visiting that absurd reality, we can take a vacation from the seriousness for even just a moment, and that leads to some kind of acceptance, and acceptance leads to those solutions that you're referring to. And without the acceptance, and without sort of some pathway of giving yourself a vacation, maybe, it's harder to get to that acceptance. It's harder to get to those solutions. So I think humor plays a nice role there. And then in terms of using it with a client, I'm reminded of Stan Steindl and a response we got from him, because he's tried some of this work with some of his clients, and it was really interesting because he let us know that he had experimented with this strategy or a similar strategy with one of his clients after the client had identified that humor and comedy was a skill set that they had. That was the door. When that opened, he said, well, what are your skills? What do you really love? And the person's like, well, I love this, and humor. And Stan's like, great. Would you be willing to try a humor-based activity? And that swung the door open, and it worked brilliantly. So if that sort of helps take the pulse down a little bit, to be like, well, that's one way to listen and look for an opportunity to try this with a client, is if they identify that this is something they're already interested in or a skill that they have.
I think that's a great suggestion, Lodge, because one of the so we run a number of programs, and one of the programs is called 7 Safe Steps. It's 7 conversations regarding safety, and the first conversation is what matters to me, right? So we have this entire focus in Protect, where we are trying to get professionals move away from this mindset of establishing what's the matter with you to what matters to you. Right? Because often what matters to you is at the seat of the person's psychological pain. You don't get suicidal over things that don't matter to you. Like I say, you don't get suicidal about the neighbor's dog. Well, you might, but I hope you won't. You get suicidal about the things that are really, really important to you. Your family, your job, your purpose in life. And when that's under attack, that's when you could get to that point where you experience suicidal distress. So if we can establish what matters to you, the what's the matter with you comes out of it automatically. So that's the first of those conversations, which is a blank page. And right in the middle of it, we have got what matters to me. And we have these kind of just simple questions, what's important to you? What's meaningful to you? What brings a smile to your face? And because often what is the source of your psychological pain is also the source of hope. Right. So if the family is falling apart, family is the source of pain, but family is also the source of hope in terms of things getting back on track. So this whole thing around what brings a smile to your face may be quite a good way to get into this space around humor and to invite someone, create that space where you can talk about the things in life that make you smile and make you laugh and are funny for you, despite all of that's going on. And that can be a segue into creating a few punchlines where a contract where you can laugh about particular things.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, and that's
values.
You're actually taking us down to a place that we plan on getting to today in this podcast, where we talk about how life is full of things that we feel ambivalent about and are paradoxical, and how comedy can help us see that and realize how absurd it is that my family is the source of my pain and the source of my joy. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely absurd. I can make a joke about it, so at least I can laugh in the moment, and that's our exercise number 3. So I feel like we're getting to that, and so I think you're there. You're hearing there's lots of opportunity for us to apply humor here. Lodge, I wanted to check in with you before I move to number 2, which is the comedy of complaints. Do you have anything you want to add before we move into that?
Well, you stole my thunder. I heard that. I heard that. I heard that paradox as well. So let's make sure to revisit that family is the source of pain and the source of hope. What a wonderfully perfect and obviously tragic and beautiful paradox.
Well, anyone who has children knows what we are talking about, right? They are the source of so much joy, so much happiness, so much pleasure. But what else? What other emotions do they bring out in you? Well, I've got 2 teenagers, right? Source of frustration, irritation, anger, make us feel scared, guilt, worried, all of those not so pleasant emotions. But will we ever swap them for anything else? I don't think so. So often what is
no.
Not
unless you want your deposit back.
Not if I want my deposit back. There you go. See, that's
the punchline.
that's what I'm talking about. Well, let's give this a go and we'll see what you think. And there's a couple of examples in here that might be related to that. Who knows? Okay, so let's look at exercise number 2, Manan. It is the comedy of complaints. So the comedy of complaints, we're going to ask you a couple of one-line complaints. And after writing each of these, we want you to look through your punchlines that we thought of earlier tonight and see which one sparks laughter and add it as a second line, which by doing this, it usually creates something very funny, even if the punchline is a non sequitur, which is a conclusion that doesn't logically follow the previous statement.
And again, Manan, we're going to ask you to come up, write a few one-line complaints and then tack on these things. So here's an example. Let's see. With our punchlines that we presented earlier as an example, so I'm going to pull from those. So I had a really hard time falling asleep last night. That's why I don't mess with leeches.
I don't know why I'm laughing, but
I don't either. I don't.
Because we agreed. It's ridiculous.
Social contract.
It's absurd.
I got to step out of my reality of having a very hard time sleeping, because that is a very difficult reality for me right now. I got to step out of that for a moment and visit an absurd reality where I say, that's why I don't mess with leeches. And it makes me feel good. It makes me slow my heart rate, decrease anxiety, decrease tension, exactly the things you just said, Manan.
Yes. Here's an example from me. Right now, it is way too cold in my office. Mm-hmm. Don't tell Steve.
Don't tell.
See, it is somewhat about
who is Steve?
And maybe you don't really even think what I just said was funny. And that's okay.
Who is this Steve, though, Mallori? It's just,
I know, this poor guy. Whoever Steve is, he's going to think, I am never listening to this podcast again. But here's the thing. Even if you don't think it's funny, I think it's funny. And this is just an example of a tool. So anyone can try this.
All the Steves in the world, their ears are burning.
If you have unlike from your podcast after all the Steves hear it, my apologies. Just don't tell him, okay?
Okay.
Now, see, there was an interesting issue with Mallori's bit there, because she laughed her way through the setup.
I can't
He's like,
help it.
it's so cold in my office. Which, when you do that, it actually makes the punchline less funny, because the punchline is supposed to break the tension of a tension created in the setup. So if you laugh your way through the setup, there's really there's no tension release.
It is
So if
true.
you said, it is way too cold in my office, and you let that sit, that's a complaint. I'm angry about that. You transmit that. You say, don't tell Steve. That breaks. So we saw kind of a counter example there. And that's, I think, one of the reasons we didn't laugh as much.
Mallory, you just got told off, I think, over there.
I
The kangaroo came to life. You need to fight back. You need to punch him back. That's what you need to do.
I like it though. I like it. You could see there was tension in the room, and you used an existing shared punchline to relieve the tension. You just did it, Manoj.
That's it. That's it.
And now the roles have flipped.
Oh, that's awesome. I get it now. I get it.
That's it.
You see how quickly this happens, though, the bonds that we're now creating, and we can get to the point, and we already are at the point where we can make each other laugh instantly. That's the whole point. Is like now we already have this. We have this between the three of us, and we've already built it. It's beautiful. Now we just leverage and expand and enjoy. It's glorious.
Mm-hmm.
I can see. So you're kind of complaining about something, and then you're taking a punchline to diffuse it, you were not telling Mallori off, but maybe you were. I don't know. But so that would be a complaint, and then
I was.
Yeah.
Don't tell Steve.
Oh dear.
Don't tell Steve.
Yeah. He needs to take the flight back to India. That's what he needs to do.
With your wife.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, yeah. Enjoy yummy Indian food.
You get it.
Yeah.
And
what?
Complaint from me, something like, I guess I've been up from around 5 a.m. It's 8 a.m. here in Brisbane, and the breakfast still isn't ready. What's the point of being an Indian married male if the breakfast isn't ready?
Oh no. Uh-oh. So what's a punchline from your list that you can add? And does
what wasn't that
performance? Was that
no? I
breakfast
want to put
wasn't
my
ready.
wife back on the plane to India. What's the point of being a married Indian male if I haven't got my breakfast?
There it is.
Oh.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. Even better. Thank you. Oh my goodness.
All right. Do you want to try another one? So that was your first one. So my breakfast isn't ready.
Yeah. So
my wife can take the plane back to India.
So a slightly more serious complaint than kind of, we're joking about the breakfast, but perhaps a more serious one. Let's see whether it would work. So one of the things that really gets to me at work is so there's a bit of context. I've been trying to shift a mindset of scarcity that we have, we haven't got this, we haven't got that, we haven't got this, we haven't got that. It's endless, right? And I want to go from this mindset of scarcity to the mindset of abundance, because in mental health, it's all about hope. There's no end to how much we can do. So this, we haven't got this, haven't got that endless whinge about what we haven't got, I find so annoying, right? And by talking about it, I can feel myself getting annoyed. Yeah. So that would be perhaps a more kind of challenging complaint than us laughing about breakfast.
Can you say that complaint and just give it a try? Say that complaint. Can you make it into one line just so we can kind of fit it into this format?
Okay, so the complaint would be something like, we haven't got this, we haven't got that, this endless whinge about what we have not got just drive me bonkers.
What might be a punchline you'd add to it?
doctor, you need to go and get a life. Or how the roles are flipped. So sometimes I whinge as well about the same thing. It's not as if I'm a saint, because I have my whinging moments,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like we all have hippo time, right? So hippos just lie in mud and wail. We all do that. So I am as guilty of this as other people. So I'm no saint when it comes to whinging. We all have our whingy moments. So I guess, yeah, the roles have flipped. Or doctor, you need to go get a life. I think both of them work well.
Oh my gosh. So what happened there? You presented the complaint, and that's the setup of the joke, right? So the setup's meant to create tension with the audience, or even tension with yourself. And then what you did, you presented the setup. We haven't got this, we haven't got that, and you finished it and you held it. And we were all holding that tension. And then Mallori said, "Do you have a punchline?" And you held it longer, which created more tension. So when you said, "Doctor, you go get I lost it. I mean, there was so much tension built up that it almost didn't matter. And that's the whole beauty of it, is a perfect example. It almost didn't matter what punchline you chose. The way that you held that made it absolutely hysterical.
Because you could even say, that's why I don't mess with the leeches, right?
That's why I don't mess with leeches.
Don't mess with the leeches. Because you can make that internal connection in your head that whinging is a bit like messing with leeches. It's open to interpretation, and I can see what Mallori was saying. You were saying right at the beginning about inventing your own funny, because it's funny in your own way. So I'm starting to get that. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Let's close this one out and hear your thoughts, and then we'll jump into the third here in just a moment. But this exercise provides a safe way to invite people in our community to be honest and vulnerable. That's really what's going on here. Think about how honest and vulnerable this has allowed us, the three of us, to be. It's kind of remarkable in just a handful of minutes. Regardless of the complaint, the social contract means that if we put a punchline at the end, we give ourselves and others permission to laugh, which can diffuse the tension built up from any complaint or frustration.
And as Lodge described earlier, there's a basic setup that we just followed within humor. The setup was, we haven't got this, we haven't got that. There's this endless whinge of what we haven't, and it's so annoying. That's the setup. And then you said, "Doctor, I got to get a life," or "You got to get a life." That's the punchline. That releases all that tension. That's humor.
And according to research, in addition to reducing stress, therapeutic humor can strengthen relationships, provide comfort, fight depression, reverse negative thinking, and challenge unproductive preconceived ideas.
So we've done a couple of exercises here, Manon. And again, I'm going to circle back and say, gosh, you have now felt the shift, I imagine, in our relationship. You have felt how now we have just sort of a different level of intimacy. And we did it by doing intentional exercises about humor, not about suicide or about mental health, but we just did it by building connection through laughter. And I'm curious, does that spark any thoughts for how this might be useful in the field of suicide prevention?
Yeah, like before that, I'm just thinking that I was just running through the punchlines. I was thinking every single punchline works for that situation, because and the kangaroo comes to life again, that, you can do that, or, the whinging, and you can have that bit around, but don't tell Steve, like all of those punchlines, and because they all have private meaning in that group. So, put my wife back on the plane to India. Like, I am not getting
with Steve.
With Steve.
Yes.
And maybe that kangaroo while you're at it.
Put them all on the plane. Yeah. So
your wife, the kangaroo, and Steve. Yeah.
Yes, all of them. So
ain't that a spicy meatball? Hey.
It does a spicy meatball.
Excuse me, sorry. Yeah, like all of them, all of those ones. Yeah, like I just I'm actually quite blown away by how simple the method is, how little time we have spent. And we talk in psychotherapy and in psychiatry about rapport, right? Rapport with a person. And you feel the rapport in your room. When the rapport is shallow, you feel it. You feel it in your body. When the rapport deepens, you feel it. It's something. And you use the word how intimate we have got. And in kind of clinical terms, it's rapport, isn't it?
It's have rapport. And I'd love to put some explanation to that a little bit, Manon, because what we just did here, even though we're not in the same room physically, as we increase the oxytocin within our brain by laughing. And of course, oxytocin, for folks that are listening, this is a neurotransmitter that directly communicates in a way that we can feel love and acceptance and trust. There is research that shows that people that laugh together are more likely to trust one another. And we also are increasing serotonin, which again is that neurotransmitter that increases the feeling of wellness. In suicide prevention, typically people ache from their emotional pain. A little serotonin helps them feel truly more alive in some ways. So they feel like they can trust you more, they're more alive. And then there's dopamine. That's my favorite one. Dopamine is super, super dope because it helps us have fun and enjoy. And further, remember, dopamine is actually the neurotransmitter that helps us lock things in. So if they remember when they see you, Manon, when they come in, they might be sad, but they know Manon is trustworthy. I remember that I feel good when I'm there and I have a good time. They're going to look forward to the visits instead of no show, or they're going to at the very least anticipate feeling good when they're with you. And that's very powerful.
Mallori, I've just thought of another punchline, and I think this is going to be I'm going to take this.
Can't wait.
So, oxytocin is so much better than estrogen.
Oh no!
Both are female hormones because breastfeeding mothers produce oxytocin.
That's right. Oxytocin is involved in it.
It's the hormone of nurture, and yeah. So and you're right. You kind of when you have trust, and oxytocin creates that trust and strong attachment relationships, and that's so important at work. Being able to know that the other person, your coworker, has got your back. So it's so important. Yeah. And when you can laugh together, if you're creating oxytocin, any day, I'll take oxytocin if I have to take a female hormone over estrogen. Given we have
oxytocin over estrogen any day. So. Same here, frankly. Thank you very much. And I'm just representing the ladies in the crowd. Same Z's. I'll take oxytocin any day. Yeah. Wonderful.
All this makes sense when you put it like that in terms of neurotransmitters and what it releases in our body. Laughter, oxytocin, creating trust. And trust is the foundation of relational safety. In suicide prevention, we kind of endlessly go on about how feeling heard and feeling validated by a fellow human being is healing in its own right. It is so much more better than any form-filling exercise that you can engage in, that a risk screen or a risk assessment. Actually feeling heard and feeling validated. Being able to tell yourself, yes, another person gets me, and I trust this person with my psychological pain. I've allowed them into my circle of trust. And oxytocin could be that almost that golden thread that kind of puts that circle together, right? That circle of trust that you have created with another person. You can't.
It also reduces cortisol, Manon. So laughter also reduces cortisol, which is the other chemical that is high with depression and anxiety. So you're reducing the less positive neurotransmitter and you're boosting the more pleasurable and helpful neurotransmitters. So it's a chemical cocktail that really helps the client out and you too when you're with them.
But you are just full of punchlines over there, dopamine, not dope. Like that would be another punchline
Did
in
you
there.
think that was funny? I'm so glad.
No,
I don't
it's
think
just
he likes
feeling jealous
wordplay.
about it. He's putting his thumbs down. I think that's awfully funny.
Okay. See, and here's the importance here, right? Like when we create it together, that was dopamine is dope. That's my line, right? So it's not a shared one. So some people, might not like it, but
I will
Anand,
never
you and I
laugh at
both
that.
like it.
He's just being obstinate. Inside, he's laughing. I can tell you that. He's laughing inside.
Oh, goodness. Well, don't tell Steve. Do you want to add anything, Lodge, before we move to the third exercise?
No, I love it. Rapport, circle of trust, fantastic. And my favorite thing is that, Manon, not just academically, but we have all felt this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so important, right? We're not just talking about it, like we're living it right now. And then we're reflecting on our experience. And I just love that stuff. I love it so much better than just a lecture with slides of somebody saying, here's what happens. But like, we're living this right now. And it's amazing. That's why it's so powerful.
Experientially, much more relaxed. I had a tension in my neck. My heart was beating fast, thinking, what on earth am I going to do? And I'm completely relaxed. I'm experiencing it in the moment. So that's great. Living it, seeing it is believing it. I guess feeling it is believing it as well. That how much tension it has taken out. Yeah,
stunning. Well, let's try our exercise 3. This one is exactly what we were aiming towards earlier, the comedy of contradictions. And we, as you know, Manon, we find ourselves in an endless series of paradoxes, double binds or ambivalences, contradictions, which, of course, these are situations in our life that combine contradictory issues. And it's not really about us judging which side of this paradox is right or wrong. It's about acknowledging that our lives are replete with these double binds and then doing the work to accept that both sides can exist together.
It's actually really difficult to accept an internal contradiction. And let's pull this one in here. For example, my family is my source of pain.
Mm-hmm.
My family is my source of hope.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. Many of us want to think that there are right and wrong ways to be, and we effectively convince ourselves that half of our feelings are wrong because they contradict with how we think we should be. For example, I might say, me even saying family is my source of pain, I might say, how dare I even think that? Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? I should never feel like that. Right? I mean, it's brutal. We brutalize ourselves, and that negative self-talk can put and keep me in a cycle of discontent.
Mm-hmm. So one of the best ways to practice acceptance with these ambivalences is to write them down and then add a punchline. Our family is the source of all of my pain. My family is the source of all of my hope. And then the kangaroo on Manon's t-shirt came alive.
It's painful. It can be painful to face a paradox, but if we add that punchline, just like the complaint, it can make expressing it actually quite pleasurable for all the same reasons. So, for example, I love my job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to work. Isn't that a spicy meatball?
Actually, that works perfectly. I guess
it works. It does
work perfectly. I guess that's the point you all have been making, that they all work because you have your own interpretation to what is the spice in the meatball, and particularly because you can even do the your leeches punchline to that as well. That's why I don't mess with leeches, and they all work.
They all work.
Even if it doesn't logically work, it still works because we're still visiting absurd land. We're still allowing ourselves to step into this alternate reality where we can just laugh a little bit, diffuse a little bit, and then
let go of the discomfort.
Yeah, like even for a moment, it makes a difference.
So here's one related to my kids. I want my kids to be honest. Sometimes their honesty hurts. I guess I won't get my deposit back.
Yeah, you can have all sorts of interpretations as to how the children are your biggest investment, and like you can have all, as you were saying that about I want my kids to be honest, in my head I was going, do you really, Mallori? Do you really be honest? Can you live with yourself and they really tell you what they are up to?
It's a paradox. I do, I don't. I do, I don't. I do, I don't. No more deposit for me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get on the flight with your wife.
Yes. And Steve and the kangaroo.
Yeah. Make room for Mallori. That's right.
All right. So if you're listening, please feel free to give this one a try wherever you are, or write it down. Think of some ideas that you have. See what you come up with, and see if you can make yourself laugh. In the meantime, Manan, would you please share, one or a couple of your paradoxes, and see if you can punch them up?
So, I guess let's start with a simple one. So something like, so my colleagues love me. I know they do. But they also tell me that I do their head in. And I know that I do that as well. I absolutely do. Like yesterday was talking about having a bit of a break in December, because when I'm on break, I come up with 100 million ideas, and although I'm on holiday, I'll endlessly WhatsApp them. Oh, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, let's do that. So, Rosie looked at me, you're going to have another holiday, which means more work for them, because I will come back, not just come back, even before I come back, I start sending more work their way, I guess. So they love me, my colleagues love me, but I also do their heads in.
And what's a punchline you want to put after it? Go ahead and perform it once you think of it.
So my colleagues love me. They tell me I do their heads in. Oxytocin over estrogen? I don't know. No, actually,
sure.
I would want to put my colleagues on the plane with my wife back to the That works better. Put them on the plane. Fly to your head in.
Oh. Your wife, your colleagues, the kangaroo, Steve, everybody
all
get
this
out
kangaroos
of here.
Coming to life. I've been on holiday. Back to life. Punch it up. Punch it up. Colleagues love me. They tell me I do their heads in. Boy, this kangaroo is coming to life.
All right, do another one. Give us another one.
I think the other one that I often think of, this is another Indian thing. So I call my parents every day, right? It's something I do. So I'm here in Australia, they're in India. Sometimes they would say, "Can we have a bit of space, please?" But anyway, so I call my parents every day, and I kind of they're wonderful, and I love talking to them. But you know what happens when my dad's in his 80s, my mom's late 70s. So because I'm the only doctor in the family, they endlessly complain about health problems. Mm-hmm. And oh my God, and I've had a whole day of listening to people who have been sad and depressed, and the last thing I want to do is to listen to more sadness and more problems, right? Because I've had a full day's work. And so in my head, I go, I want to talk to them. I don't want to talk to them. I want to talk to them. I don't want to talk to them. Right?
Yep.
I want to talk to them.
So?
Oh, how the roles have flipped.
That's a good one.
Once upon my time, I had my problems and my parents were supporting me, and now it's the other way around. I guess as people grow older, they become children, so the roles have flipped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess that's the That's why the roles are flipped. How parents become your own children.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a good one. And that actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's sort of like a sensical statement, which is interesting because you established it ahead of time, how the roles have flipped. I don't think normally we would laugh at that because it makes such sense. But because we've established it ahead of time, we still enjoy to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating too.
Yeah.
Do you want to try one more?
Yeah. So let's go for something a bit more intense, shall we? So something to do with which we might relate to suicide prevention. So my life is meaningful because I support people in suicidal distress, right? So that's what I do. This is my passion. This is my purpose in life. So my life is meaningful because I support people in suicidal distress. At times, it does make me feel hopeless too. You know, my life is meaningful because I support people in suicidal distress. At times, it makes me feel hopeless. I guess I need to put my wife back on the plane to get some hope back, eh? I am not getting any breakfast today. I can tell you that. Or on the 9th, when this airs on the eve of the next day.
I hope your wife says, that's a spicy meatball, Manan.
I need your spicy meatball. Oh, dear.
Oh my God.
Yes.
You should never laugh at your wife's expense. This is going to be the moral of this podcast when this airs. You know, I will be going hungry, I'll be starving, and I'll need to go
and she will put you on the plane back to India.
She will put me on the plane to India. Your mom can feed you now.
Yes.
And the kangaroo will come to life.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. I mean, that paradox that you presented, I think the three of us really felt that. And then just such a huge wave of oxytocin, laughter, and dopamine. Just, I mean, I almost fell out of my chair. I don't know if you saw that. It was pretty impressive what I did. I didn't want to draw attention to what I'm doing, but I almost fell out of my chair. That was so
laughing, so. But you know, it is true though, because those who work in suicide prevention, that's what gives their life meaning, right? So we have this goal, and it's a particular goal to reiterate on World Suicide Prevention Day. We want to touch at Progress Guide 10 million lives by 2040. 10 million lives by 2040. That's what we want to touch. That's our goal. That gives us purpose. But when you're talking to people in suicidal distress all day long, right? Sometimes you yourself can begin to lose hope. And you are meant to carry hope for other people. You're meant to carry hope for other people. And if you begin to lose touch with hope, what do you do? And I'm starting to feel that laughter has a large part to play in that. You know, my brother is a banker, and in my head, I have this metaphor of they count money all the time, right? They deal with money all the time, but none of it is theirs, right? None of it is theirs. So you're carrying hope for other people. It may be a strange metaphor that I came up with, but you know, you're carrying hope for other people, but none of it is yours. Where is your hope? Where do you get that sustenance? And you get hope from seeing other people regain their hope. And that's what kind of keeps us going. I think on World Suicide Prevention Day, one of the things I want to reiterate to all our listeners, those who are working in health, mental health, social care, primary care, those who are supporting people in suicidal distress. And I don't know whether you'll have been inside an old lighthouse. You know, an old lighthouse has a tiny little beacon inside it. And it's surrounded by mirrors. These mirrors kind of catch the light, they magnify the light, and the light can be seen for miles. So there's a tiny beacon, and then it's these mirrors. So people who are working in healthcare, people who are working with people in suicidal distress, they are like these mirrors. they reflect the light back to the person. They help the person grow. And for me, I take tremendous solace in the fact that when the light inside someone, which was dwindling, has grown so much that others can see it again, my place in their life has ceased, right? So I can retreat, and that life can, and that light of life can be seen for miles and miles and miles. And for me, if hope is the light, laughter is the sound that will go with it. And I've kind of had this beautiful association in my head that's come to life in this last hour and a half that I don't know how long we have been chatting, but
and I want to add to it even more, Manan, because there's this beautiful thing actually called mirror neurons.
Yes,
that happen when we laugh. That your laughter hits my mirror neurons, and it gives me the power of laughter and joy as well. And then my laughter then bounces off of your mirror neurons, and they say, I want some more. So very much we are the mirrors of the joy that comes from this laughter. Laughter is the sound of the joy, and the mirror neurons are exactly the mirror that you're talking about. We are the lighthouse when we invite this humor.
Yes, you're creating that safe space where you can. And, it's, as you kind of said, that's why laughter, joy, that's so infectious, right? If you're,
mirror neurons.
It's mirror neurons. You kind of, it automatically, and even if you maybe this would be my recommendation to people who are listening to this podcast on World Suicide Prevention Day. Just walk around, wherever you're walking around, walk with half a smile on your face, right? Just half a smile. I know places where we are not wearing masks at the moment, half a smile. And you will start getting smiles back, and your smile will grow bigger and bigger. And it's mirror neurons. You're right, Mallori, because it's automatic. You see someone walking by, you don't know them. It's like your punchlines, which don't make any sense. Walking by, you just eye to eye, half a smile, and you will start getting smiles back. And kind of smiles, laughters, hope. It creates hope. And that is the antidote to distress that people feel, suicidal distress, when kind of life doesn't worth living.
Well, and if I can just add a teeny quick story that I have been given permission to share, that when my son came to me sharing that he did have thoughts of suicide, Manan, we used humor as his way of communicating his level of sadness and joyfulness. And the darker his humor, the sadder he truly was. His depression scores showed very low, and he was very much struggling. But as soon as we got him to his first counseling appointment and got him the care he needed, he sent me the most hilarious, uplifting meme. And so humor became our evaluation tool as a way of deciding is how much hope is there, how much light is there. And so it's continued to be a communication skill that has helped him seek hope and light.
So thank you.
And he's doing great.
For disclosing that with our audience. And that's incredibly powerful. Personal narratives are incredibly powerful to be, to show others how actually humor can help. And even when we are talking about suicidal distress, and you're kind of talking not just as a professional, but from your personal experience as well, from your own life story. And as a mother, that must be, I feel that I can deal with whatever life throws at me, but if it's anything to do with my children, I find that very, very tough to deal with. So I'm not in your shoes, and I don't know how you would have got through that place, but to find a common ground over which you can still connect, because people who are struggling with depression or anxiety, they begin to isolate themselves. They cut themselves off from the world. So to find a place through which you can get through sounds like another golden thread. Humor as the golden thread, which makes that relationship strong through a difficult time, through those storms, that the lighthouse is helping you, get through those choppy waters and those stormy seas.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for that.
No, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and you can see that even in sharing that story, that there is ambivalence with anyone thinking about coming forward with telling someone that they're thinking about suicide. Many people, when they're thinking about it, they, on one hand, I'm thinking about it. On one hand, I don't want anyone to know that I'm thinking about it. And we don't want to ignore that suicide is a serious topic, and humor is not a solution. It is one resource that can help in creating comfort to talk about challenging things, as we talked about here with the Comedy of Contradictions. Really, what we're saying is this creates that safe space so that someone can speak comfortably and honestly and get the help that they need.
Yeah. I'm just reflecting and thinking that, yes, we have laughed a lot, but it's been incredibly moving as well. So again, that's a contradiction as well. Quite heavy emotions as well as quite light emotions, both at the same time, and they can coexist together. And we talk a lot about this for people in suicidal distress, where they are on their own hill and they look at life and they think life equates to more pain, right? Our offer of life, we want to drag them over to our hill. So we have taken a position of living. They have taken a position of dying. For them, my offer of life equates to more pain because life is so painful. They're looking at as life as the problem and suicide as the solution. We as professionals see suicide as the problem and the life as solution. And somehow we have to dig deep and understand, where is that position of death coming from, right? They have taken up that position of death. We can get into a power struggle and try and pull them over to our own hill. But
yes,
the reality is that only one person can win that power struggle, and that is a person in so much pain that they're thinking about taking their life as a way of ending it all. And if we can begin to see that their position of dying comes from their interest to escape the entrapment of life at the moment, and really their need is help me be pain-free. They want to be pain-free. That's what they're screaming out for. And me as a professional, my interest is to explain alternatives, right? Explain alternatives to this. And I want to help you be pain-free. That's my need as a professional, to have purpose and meaning in my life. I want to help you be pain-free. And somehow, through humor, you can find that common ground and be able to show this person, we have common ground. You want to be pain-free. I want to help you be pain-free. So without getting into a power struggle, creating a third space where the two of you are together, right? And I know it's a fairly nuanced skill and something that I would love to continue to work with the two of you over, as to how do we create that common space where, that common ground. And you can take it to any conflict, because as human beings, we fundamentally want the same things from life. And inside the mind of someone in suicidal distress, you have that endless tension between reasons for living and reasons for dying. That's that battle that's going on. And we want to make the reasons for living stronger and kind of detract for the reasons for dying by chipping away at the pain or improving their tolerance to pain. And humor could be one of the ways in which not only do you improve their tolerance to pain, but you begin to chip away at the problems as such, because you create that problem-free space in which you can think better, you can think clearer, you can find alternative solutions. And that's what I've been hearing in conversation with you all, how you can create that space in which you can find these solutions.
Yeah.
I'm aware that we have been chatting for a very long time. I thought we will have a short podcast, short and sharp, something with humor and wit and things like that. And we have ended up talking about things that are actually quite deep and heavy, but at the same time, meaningful and purposeful. Like Mallori and Lodge, I'm aware of your time as well, and it's evening over there. And you'll have families to go get to, I guess, and cook the dinner. And if our audience were interested in how they can get the two of you to come and work with them so that, you guys can show them the techniques and strategies, those that we have been experientially kind of going through today, how would they go about it?
Sure. Real quick, before I launch into that, I would like to, Manan, I'd like you to share your funniest moment from the past hour and however long it's been. So kind of think of your funniest moment and re-share that with us so we can kind of end with a laugh, make us laugh a little bit. So process that a little bit. The second thing is, in terms of continuing the conversation, I think Mallori and I would love to do, so there's sort of a part 2 to this. Actually, there's multiple parts, but we would love to engage in part 2 of this at some point soon, so we can continue this conversation, because it has been illuminating and wonderful. So if you're interested in that, and for all y'all listening out there, if you're interested in getting us to come work with you or have a conversation, you can contact Mallori through her website, which is MalloriDeSalle.com, or contact me through my website. It's lodgemccammon.com. We would absolutely love to work with you or have a discussion.
Yeah. So we'd love to hear your funniest moment, because we're so grateful. We've had so much fun.
Yeah, and I would recommend all our listeners to get in touch with Mallori and Lodge, as, not just because they are absolutely hilarious, but this is meaningful stuff. Those of us who are working in mental health, we know it's like, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And every day you come in, there are more people to support. It's endless. And you have to find a way to keep refilling your cup. You can't pour from an empty cup. Helping shouldn't hurt. If helping is hurting, then it's time to hit the pause button and do a factory reset, right? You have to get away, refill your cup. But don't let it get to that point where you have to hit the pause button. Keep refilling your cup all the time. And humor could provide a great avenue to keep refilling. So get Lodge and Mallori over. And nowadays, in the post-COVID world, you don't have to fly them over. I'm sure they would love to fly over to whichever part of the world you're listening to this podcast. But you can get them virtually, I'm assuming, and they will work with you all. Because I think humor is healing. Humor creates hope. And you need to feel hope within yourself before you can create hope for others. Charity begins at home. Look after yourself. And on this World Suicide Prevention Day, that's what I'll keep saying. You can't look after others if you aren't looking after yourself. That will be the key message. And humor is a great way to look after yourself, your team, your patients, your organization, your larger society, your community. It's a great way to stay strong and run that marathon, because caring is a marathon. And we in mental health care have a lifetime of service to do. It's a calling. Make this calling a little bit easier with building humor into your life. So my funniest moment, I guess, would be, one shouldn't laugh at your wife's expense. You are in deep trouble. But I think that was the one when I said, my life is meaningful because I support people in distress. And at times, it does make me feel hopeless. And I begin losing touch with hope. And I said, a way to get hope back would be to put my wife on the plane. Oh my God, I'm so going to regret this. You guys have ended up, putting me in trouble. I'm sure, when it airs on the 9th and my wife listens to this, I am going to be in trouble. Maybe not. Hopefully she can see the funny side in all of this. But Lodge, Mallori, you guys have been wonderful, so generous with your time. I've absolutely enjoyed myself, and God, I feel so much lighter as well, because going in, I was quite tense.
You did it.
Kangaroo has been kind of in life, at life, boxing away, and I really, really feel good about what we have managed to achieve, and hopefully it will bring a few laughs to all of you all. Please do remember, in some shape or form, to mark World Suicide Prevention Day. It's a really, really important day to get the word out there, to fight stigma, to normalize suicide. Remember, all of you who are working in mental health care, yes, when you meet someone with in suicidal distress, you have a job to do. You have to do all the assessments. You have to collect a lot of data. You have to fill in those forms. Those might be your needs that you're meeting, but actually the person in front of you has a need as well to tell their story, to be heard, to feel validated, to connect with someone who can capture hope for them and provide hope at a time when life feels incredibly dark. On World Suicide Prevention Day, remember that you need to strike that balance, because all of these contradictions, life is full of contradictions, as Lodge and Mallori kind of proved to us today. And we will thrive through these contradictions if you can look after yourselves, if you can build a little bit of humor in your life, walk around town, walk around your community with half a smile on your face. And as Mallori said, those mirror neurons will kick in and you will get smiles back. There is no better dopamine flow than getting those smiles back. So wonderful to have you guys here today, Mallori and Lodge. Thank you so much. And hopefully we can do this again soon. And hope you have a good World Suicide Prevention Day and you're able to get certain messages out. And thank you all for listening. Stay well, stay safe, and have that half a smile on your face on World Suicide Prevention Day. Thank you.